Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is a devastating neurodegenerative disease with no cure. It robs someone of their ability to walk, talk, swallow, and eventually breathe. ALS effectively robs patients of their bodies and their lives. For my master's research, I'm going to be studying the contributions of endogenous retrovirus K, or ERV-K's, integrase enzyme in the immune impairment that we see in ALS. So what ERV-K is a group of retrovirus genes found in humans, so I have them, you have them, and they produce the same basic proteins that we'd find in better-known retroviruses like HIV. So previous studies have already linked ERV-K to ALS, and what we see is that their proteins are pathogenic in this context. And in our lab, we found that ERV-K integrase is expressed in the brain and spinal cord tissues from patients with ALS. And also we found that in cultured cells that are expressing ERV-K integrase, that we get the formation of a non-functional form of a protein called BRCA1. Now this is a huge problem because we need BRCA1 to be able to mount an immune response against viruses that would result in ERV-K proteins being cleared from a cell. So in my research, I'm going to be using a confocal microscope to take images of a type of brain cell called astrocytes, which express ERV-K integrase and the immune protein IRF3. Now, one thing that's important to know about IRF3 is that in its active form, it needs to be able to travel to the nucleus to trigger an immune response. So when I was imaging my cells, what I saw was that in those not expressing ERV-K integrase, the IRF3 was able to travel to the nucleus, like in the top panel. However, in cells that were not expressing it, what we can see is that it can no longer travel to the nucleus, like in the bottom panel. So what this is telling us is that somehow ERV-K integrase is preventing this immune response from happening. So the next part of my master's is going to be looking at whether integrase inhibiting drugs can reverse this impairment of the immune system. Because if this works, this tells us we may be able to use anti-integrase drugs to treat ALS. Now this is huge because currently the ALS therapeutics we have aren't the best. They only really extend life by a few months and don't do much to address symptoms. And because we already have anti-integrase drugs on the market for the treatment of HIV, the hope is that we could repurpose these to treat ALS and hopefully give patients hope of battling this disease. Thank you.